Hey everybody, Rich Grisham here with Brian Weedeye from Pasta Padre and TJ Larriman from That Sports Gamer. Today, Electronic Arts confirmed what many people, including Brian at Pasta Padre, had long suspected, which was there will be no demo for Madden 15 on the next-gen consoles. What to some people was a fairly expected and perhaps innocuous situation that developed actually set off a, relatively speaking, a firestorm of criticism from many circles. I, today at work at lunch, checked my Twitter feed and was kind of chuckled and about the feedback I was getting, and I tweeted about what I viewed as fake outrage, and I was met with a lot of non-fake outrage feedback from various circles. So we are here to talk about it, about the Madden demo not existing, the bigger picture. So as I mentioned, we're here with Brian Weedeye and TJ Larriman. So we'll start with you, Brian. As I mentioned earlier, you had predicted for a week or two that it felt like no Madden demo was coming. When you heard today or you read the confirmation that was in fact the case, were you surprised, and what did you think?
Yeah, there's some confusion on my part because of the EA Access also going live today, early this week. But yeah, when I first found out for sure that the demo wasn't coming, I knew what the reaction would be and that people would be upset about it, and they would be immediately suspicious of what it meant for the game this year. So that didn't necessarily surprise me, especially because it's EA and because of the EA Access rollout recently, that people would start putting things together and they would assume that there were problems. I mean, in the past, usually when demos weren't released, it was done to disguise an issue or disguise that the game wasn't improved. Now, MLB The Show started really with MLB 10 The Show. They didn't release a demo. MLB 11 had one, but ever since, they haven't released a demo. And then last year, NBA 2K14 didn't release a demo. So there is precedent there for these games not to release demos, but certainly those two games, especially those two series, were on a little bit different ground than EA is at this point with Madden or with many of their franchises. So there's this perception, and really that's what matters at this point. What matters today, and I'm sure EA expected this to be the case, that when you don't release a demo, you're hiding something, or because why would you want to push people away from trying a product that you're really proud of? And we see that in the reaction that people are giving today, that they think this is a sign of something wrong with Madden, or it's just a reason for them not to buy in this year because they wanted to try it and they're not going to get the opportunity. And then going beyond that is the fact that Xbox One people will get the chance if they wish to pay into EA Access to play early, but PS4 consumers are completely shut out, and certainly so are the 360 and PS3 users who don't really know anything about necessarily specifically about the games they're supposed to be buying or considering in just 2 weeks from now.
So TJ Larriman, and by the way, Brian, I'm going to circle back on several of the things that you talked about, but TJ, no Madden 15 demo, big deal, small deal, or no deal?
It's very interesting you put it that way, Rich. I think it's a little bit of all. For people that are on the fence about getting a Madden, this is a pretty big deal. For the hardcore people, it's no deal at all, though they're going to make it seem like, oh, the world is falling, the sky is broken into pieces, dropping to the ground, we're all going to die. Yeah, it's probably not that big a deal at all. The only problem is I feel like the demos normally bring those people in that are on the fence about making the purchase, or someone that maybe a month down the road is going to come in and say, oh, Madden I heard was doing pretty good this year, let me try out the demo, see if I like it, and go buy the game. And now they don't have that. So it seems like this year's game is just kind of preaching to the choir, and they're not going to be able to get a lot of new people in. Which is funny because we talked where Brian just mentioned that MLB The Show and 2K didn't come out with NBA 2K didn't come out with demos last year, and those are games that obviously they have their fan base and they know who they're selling to. But you look at the titan that is FIFA, that they know they're going to sell bazillions of copies, yet they still come out with a demo every single year. It's just very interesting that Madden didn't do it. But I see both sides with the shortened development cycle and being the first fall game and a game that came out on the new consoles last year. So I just hope there's some way in the future. Maybe they'll do that little MLB thing where 2 weeks after the release, there'll be a demo out for some people to try out. Because right now, there's nothing for someone that says, Madden sounds good, people are saying it is, but I don't want to take that $60 risk right now, and they can't go try it right now.
Now, normally, the announcement that there is no demo for a sports game would not be cause for the three of us to do a brief live show. But this being Madden and the juxtaposition of this announcement coinciding with the launch of the EA Access program has certainly amplified the thoughts and ratcheted up the rhetoric on all sides about this. So we'll start with that. I mean, to me, the EA Access has nothing to do with the lack of a demo, because EA Access grants you early access to the complete game if you have EA Access and an Xbox One, whereas a demo, that's not the same thing as getting a demo if you're an EA Access subscriber. So I think there was definitely some, I don't know if I want to use the word confusion around the difference between having to get behind a paywall to get a demo versus a full game. But either way, certainly the timing of both things isn't optimal. Brian, is it a coincidence, or do you think that this is a direct correlation between no demo for Madden 15 as well as the launch today of EA Access, which by being a subscriber to that will get you access to the full Madden 15 game 5 days before it hits the stores?
Do I think we won't have a demo for Madden solely because of EA Access? No, I don't think that's the only reason behind it. I certainly think that it plays a part in could we get away without having a demo this year. Maybe when that decision was made, they thought EA Access would be on PS4 as well. So I don't think that's the only reason, but we may even get demos for the next games coming out, the FIFAs and the NHLs and the NBA Lives, but what it does is kind of set up, it offers another incentive to jump into EA Access. Plus, it's just one in the next line of steps that EA is going to take people to becoming more on the digital side of things and becoming more accustomed to spending money digitally, is by, hey, okay, well, this year it may not be technically a demo, but it's the only way you can play the game early is with EA Access. So whether people want to call it a demo or not, it really doesn't make a difference. Plus, they can essentially make it a demo if they want. If you read the terms of EA Access, number one, they don't have to give you any more than 2 hours of playtime. Now, that's probably more for the story-driven games that EA will have coming out in the future than the sports games. I'm sure it'll be more significant than that. But they can also lock you out of modes. If they wanted to lock you to play now, and that's it, they could do that. So it's essentially still a demo in that regard, because it's just your only way to play the game pre-release, whether you have full access to everything or not. Yeah.
So, TJ, is a demo important to? I mean, it's certainly not important to the three of us, right? And I don't mean that in a snarky way. Like, we're going to get Madden because that's what we do. Is a demo truly important in 2014 when, unless you're a person who needs the game on day one, you can very easily have an avalanche of information about a game, not just reviews. Like, who even really relies on nothing but reviews anymore? A 5-second YouTube search or Twitch search once a game is live, and you can see everything you want to see, including much more than you could probably experience in a demo. So do demos even matter, and does a Madden 15 demo matter to the larger gaming community? Because it certainly doesn't apply to the three of us.
Yeah, I agree. For us and the vast majority of people that are listening to this, they already know if they're getting Madden or not. But if you want to grow a game, the only way you're going to be able to do that is to go outside of your hardcore fan base. And to do that, you have to give people something to see so that they can try it out. Because even if you go on a Twitch stream and say, hey, NBA Live looks really good, but do I really trust the stream that I'm watching and the guy playing it that it's $60 good? Or can I go do something? Can I go on right now, download the demo, play it for 5 minutes, be like, yes, this is a good deal, and then go buy it? That's what I would want to do with a game that I'm not sure about.
I think, and I think that people nowadays are much more informed when they can be informed. These companies will hold back information as much as they can, but that's also created the skepticism that we have now, where a company says, we improved this, this, and this. Just believe us. It's going to be that much better, and then 3 months later they're tearing that game down while they start to promote the new one. You don't really know how much to believe that they're telling you, so having the demo is at least the opportunity to try and see if those things translated. Now, it's not the best representation of a full game, obviously. If you get Madden 2-minute quarters and that's it, you're obviously not playing connected franchise mode, you're not playing Ultimate Team. You know, they threw some of that stuff into demos too. But that was just going to tell you if maybe you got a feel for the gameplay, if gameplay was important to you. But yeah, like TJ said, it's critical to grow the fan base, and the only way you can do that is by drawing them in and convincing them. And without a demo, that becomes tougher. That's why it's been okay for the show and NBA 2K, because people have a trust in those brands already, and they have a feeling they know what they're getting when they buy into those games. And Madden, maybe there's less of that now, and certainly with some of EA's other games there would be less confidence going into just, okay, I'm going to trust and just buy this every year or every other year. And if you look at the numbers, you know, the amount of people that buy a game like Madden every year are fairly small compared to what people would imagine. It's mostly every 2 years, every 3 years. It's not us, we buy every year. But there's an awful lot of people who buy every other year. Maybe they need the demo to help decide if it's a big enough jump for them. And there's even more people who don't play Madden at all, believe it or not. Like hundreds of millions of people who don't play Madden at all. So they need a way to be reached and to be convinced that, hey, maybe my $60 right here makes sense to spend on this game this year.
Yeah, can I say one more thing, Rich?
Mm-hmm.
With early access, there's going to be people that get early access after Madden launches, and they're going to get a free copy of Madden NFL 25, and they're not going to have anything to compare that to, so they might just say, why do I need to get Madden 15 when I now have this free copy of Madden NFL 25, and I can't even see what the difference is by popping in, playing a quick game, even if it's just a little short 2-minute quarter games just to see if things changed. They're probably just going to sit back and be like, well, I guess Madden 25 is good enough for another year, and we'll check out Madden 16.
You know, one of the things I try to say on a regular basis is the way that I feel about things, I do not try to project those feelings on other people. I think today I did that when I basically shrugged my shoulders like, yeah, demo for Madden 15 doesn't really matter, who cares? Not that big of a deal. I mean, unless you're one of those people who has to have this game day one, no one would willingly go into buying this game sight unseen. But again, I was surprised by the commentary. And some of the commentary actually ultimately got an official statement from Electronic Arts about it. Our friend and fellow Press Row podcaster Sumit Sarkar posted an article on Polygon, which generated an official response from EA, and they said, hey, and I'm paraphrasing, but they basically said, hey, you know, we are having the team focus 100% on the game. So, Brian Weedeye, do you believe that the reason that there is no demo for Madden 15 is that they are using the resources that they have to focus on the game? Because whether you want to believe it or not, it takes people and time and effort to create a demo, a slice of a game. Do you believe EA when they say that?
Partially, yeah. I think that's definitely got to be that. I'm sure that played a role in the decision because there was a shorter development cycle. I mean, there's no denying that. They did, however, take the time out to create builds for E3 and Comic-Con. Now, I'm not saying, like you responded to me on Twitter, Rich, I'm not saying you throw that demo out there, but to a wider audience, because you really can't do that. But it showed, you know, they had a priority to build it for the trade shows, and they didn't feel it was necessary for the general consumer. So that's a decision they made. But just because they can also take that time and focus it into the game doesn't mean that they don't also have ulterior motives in regards to digital, because yes, they do want to push people into EA Access, and they do want the all-digital future. Now, they're not doing it like Microsoft, but they're going step by step. It started with Season Ticket. They didn't really promote that. Now EA Access, they're absolutely going to push it, and Microsoft is helping in that regard, pushing it, and it's become more mainstream. And as soon as they can get people in there into that ecosystem, it's going to just grow from there. And if that means essentially the first chance you get to play is through EA Access, then that's a plus for them. I don't know if we don't want that to happen, but that's where things are headed, and it's almost inevitable at this point. But that's why people speak out now. I think if you go back to Pete Dodd's no PS4 DRM campaign. The reason why that was so effective was because it was before Sony announced that whether they were going to have DRM or not, like Microsoft was. So when people speak out against this idea that, hey, they're putting a demo behind a paywall, in essence, the reason why they're doing that is because if you don't have the uproar now, that day is absolutely going to come if it's not here yet. So I don't mind people speaking out about it. I think it's necessary for them to do so, whether EA's excuse or justification for not having a demo is 100% true or not.
Yeah, look, Pete Dodd is a friend of all of ours, and I have, we have all seen what can happen when at the right time, the right cause, and we're talking about causes in video games, so we want to make sure that we, we understand what we're talking about. This is something that we love and we spend a lot of time on, but they are video games, right? So, but when there is a cause that is worth having an uproar over, we have seen that the results can be positive. Where I sort of start to throw my hands in the air is this something to actually get into an uproar about, right? I mean, if there's an uproar about everything, eventually the uproar loses all of its effect. And I don't know, it just, and again, I could be wrong, but it just felt to me that this was almost artificial because it's Madden, and a lot of people love to hate Madden for, reasons often starting and ending with exclusivity. So I'm not going to say that people don't have the right to want, more games. We all want more games, more competition. But because it's Madden and because it's EA, it almost, to me, it felt a bit phony. However, when talking to some people, it was clear to me that it wasn't phoniness. And I think it's where we've gotten to with this is it's not so much there's a problem, I'm outraged that there's no Madden 15 demo. It's I'm outraged because I think I see where this is going, and I don't like that. TJ?
And EA is basically the industry leader in these things.
Sure.
Whether it be go all the way back to the Online Pass, when EA introduced the Online Pass, guess what happened? Everybody else followed along. And so that's what we're looking at now is if this works for EA, other companies are going to jump on the EA Access bandwagon. They may stop doing demos because look, there was plenty of criticism about the decision not to have MLB The Show demos. There was debate about the merits of the demos back then, even, and certainly people were disappointed with NBA 2K14's decision not to have a demo. And then you have ones like MLB 2K13 that don't have a demo, and you're like, well, I see why that was because they didn't improve the game. But what this could lead to is, yeah, everything gets pushed behind a subscription, and other companies stop putting out demos altogether for sports games too, and then you're left with, at the mercy essentially of the publishers who will give you information that is always their positive slant. They might show you videos, but they're going to make sure they don't show you any issues in those videos, and then you don't have an idea of what to trust. And so, yeah, I mean, it can spiral, and that's what the publishers are hoping. The less information you can compile for yourself that could hurt your chances of buying a game, the better for them.
TJ, do demos at this point in time, do demos as we know them, is this the end? And I don't mean is this Madden 15 the end, but as we continue to evolve and we see what works and what doesn't work, are demos ending, or could this potentially be the start of sort of bringing them back in one way, shape, or another.
Yeah, I think this is just going to be a bump in the road with all the short development cycle, the EA Access thing coming out first. They've already said NBA Live is going to have a demo. I think
True.
Sean O'Brien said he wanted to get it out
Although-
as soon as humanly
Although
possible.
I like to note that he didn't say the word demo, he said trial, which made me think immediately of EA Access. Because since when have they said trial in the past? But yeah, I don't know that for sure. It just made me laugh when I went back and reread it and read trial instead of demo, because that's the terminology they use for EA Access. Hopefully that's not the case though, and we actually get complete demos for these other games.
Yeah, and I'd be surprised if FIFA doesn't come out with a demo, because they've had one every year since I can remember. And if you want to expand your fan base, you have to put something out there for people to try. That's just the way I see it. I mean, even what's the name of that awesome Konami soccer game? Pro Evolution Soccer. They put out demos. Yeah. So everybody that's trying to get bigger is putting out demos. I'm really interested to see if we're going to have an NHL demo this year, though. That feels like could be a very questionable one.
I'm curious what you guys think of this. Do you feel like a demo outside of the realm of perception and bringing in new people, you think that they generally help or hurt sales? Because we've had these debates before, and so there's some research that they tend to hurt sales. Although my argument is that a good demo sells the game, a bad demo loses people from considering it. Whether that be recently we had the EA Sports UFC demo, which they had to do because they're trying to bring in people. It wasn't a good demo, but it wasn't the demo's fault. It's because the game was highly flawed. So I'm curious whether you guys think demos have the potential to actually help games sell, or if it's just a negative, which it seems like a lot of publishers now are feeling as such.
Well, I think that 2014 is very different than 2012, much less 2010 or 2008. I mean, demos used to be huge. You know, the 360 demos were massive. Like, I would try demos all the time because it felt like almost every game had a demo. But in 2014, for me, right, and I think for a lot of, let's face it, most people, and I'm making a statement as if it's fact, having zero quantitative analysis.
You're the internet's Rich Grisham. You can say whatever you want.
I think most people that own a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One are very savvy video game consumers. Not all, but many. And savvy video game consumers, Brian, as you mentioned earlier, are very aware of what they are getting into. And you combine that with the fact that, again, you can get a very, very, very clear sense of how a game feels and plays and looks much more than in a demo by going on Twitch and by going on YouTube and spending a half an hour or an hour, and you can see a whole lot more than any demo would have. To me, just makes it seem like in 2014, doing a demo for any game is not going to help your sales. What is going to help your sales are positive YouTubers that are saying how great the game is, and that's a whole other story that we can get to, at some time. And having a whole bunch of people on Twitch playing your game and having people watch it. And again, this is a relatively new phenomenon. I mean, things have changed very quickly. So in my opinion, these days, a demo won't help your sales nearly as much as having a good game that is being streamed, right before and at launch. But that's just my opinion. TJ?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. We can go out on the internet and do a lot of research, but until you're actually playing the game, you still need to make that decision yourself. Like, everybody was playing the Destiny beta, and everybody was streaming it, and everybody was talking about it on Twitter and YouTube and everything. And I was like, oh, this game seems pretty cool. I don't really like space shooters. Maybe this is the one that gets me back in. I've played some Halos and some Gears of War, and then the beta came out. I got in. I was like, awesome, let me play this, see if it's good. This is not the game for me.
But that was not a demo. That was a beta, which is another change, right? Like, betas are very different than demos, and what EA Access is offering is potentially a beta, right? Because unless they chop it off at 2 or 4 hours, which, again, I don't think they're going to do, because then you would have probably a much more legitimate uproar. It's very different having a beta than a demo, which for Madden, let's face it, Madden demos, and really all sports game demos, are very, very thin slices, very cramped games where you can't get a real feel for what it's like to play a game over the course of, what would feel like a real game in football terms, and you got just a few teams and things like that. I actually don't like demos, and maybe that's part of my overall sort of attitude with this is I'm much more of a guy who, I don't, other than sports games, I don't go day one on hardly any games. I sort of like to hear what people are saying about them, and I have a lot of friends in the video gaming community whose opinions I trust, so that has a lot to do with it too. But I think the phenomenon, TJ, of betas also adds more credence to the fact that demos really are less and less impactful, and to answer your question, Brian, probably actually wind up hurting sales. There are certainly people in development, that claim as a fact that demos cut their sales.
Yeah, and there's also been examples, though, in sports, like if you go all the way back to UFC 2009,
right,
that demo sold the game, and it had a huge, it sold way beyond expectations, due in large part to a great demo. Sports games are tough because TJ mentions Destiny.
Right.
Yeah, that's a completely different genre. It's a game that comes out Destiny doesn't come out every few years, but essentially every other game that has sequels, they don't do the yearly thing. Okay, Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, yeah. But but with sports games, you're looking for these really kind of subtle improvements in gameplay, whether they're there or not. You can show me a video of FIFA, and I'm not going to be able to tell you the difference between FIFA 14 and FIFA 13, probably. But when I played them, I sure felt the difference. Mm-hmm. So it's one way to demonstrate. When you have a sports game that comes out every year, people want to know if they are going to buy every year. And like I said earlier, not everyone buys every year, but if they are, they want to know, was enough done to the game this year to justify that? Did it address the issues I had with the last year's game? And yeah, you could identify that some in demos. Was it, give you the entire picture of what the whole product was going to be like? No. But I think it's more of a story to take away that than it is to give it, if that makes any sense, because it just projects this sense of concern about how a product might be received. Like, we're taking away the demo because it hurts sales. So is the demo hurting sales, or is the game not being up to people's expectations hurting sales? That's the real question.
One of the things that I don't buy, right, and just because I don't buy it doesn't mean that it's correct or not, but one of the things that I don't buy is that they are somehow hiding this game. It's only 7 or 8 months after launch. We've seen plenty of impressions of it. Obviously at E3, they've done videos, they've done live streams, and these are streams of full games. So to me, this is not a hiding it kind of a thing. But again, that's just me. Why don't we take a look at some of the comments from the community? Brian, you sent out some tweets earlier, you got some tweets earlier. So let's take a look at some of those, because there's some very interesting opinions. Up first, Optimus Prime says EA Access is DRM slowly returning and people are not seeing it. If this succeeds, other publishers will follow suit. As our earlier mentioned friend Pete Dodd definitely is of this opinion, and he is certainly, I think that's one of his big problems with it. Mike, his Twitter handle at GoSendGo101 says, I haven't played Madden in a while, was considering getting back into it, but probably won't without any way to try on the PS4. So there you go. That lends credence to what both of you are saying, which I was disagreeing with, but here's someone who that flies in the face of that, which basically says, if I can't try it, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, I was surprised, not just in my tweets, but reading around in my comment section at Operation Sports Forum. There are actually quite a few people commenting that they may not buy the game this year because of this, or at least they're going to have to wait on reviews. Maybe they end up getting a used copy. Who knows?
Right.
But there's definitely this sense that there are these people. There always are these people who are it's an easy decision for us to make. We buy the games every year, but
Right.
there are these people who are always determining whether a game is worth it for them to get this year, next year, whatever it may be.
Yep. Clearly. Rare Bishop says, I'd say it's a bigger deal for the 360 or PS3 versions. There's no video of them. An excellent point. Because as we are guilty of and are admittedly guilty of here on Press Row is, we tend to focus a lot on the PS4 and the Xbox One versions of the game because that's what we play and that's where the sort of the excitement is. So, yeah, that's a good point as well. G Stone says, I suspect EA has determined that demos' effect on whether to buy or not is either negligible or bad. I would say there's probably some credence to that. And again, when you couple it with the fact that you got to take 3 or 4 or 5 people away for probably 4 weeks to build one of these things, you do the math and it probably is pretty simple. Freight Train Shane says, smart business move by EA, bad for gamers. The Madden demo was never equal to the actual release anyway. There's a good point. I think we sort of talked about it. But yeah, the demo is not necessarily representative of what the final game is. It's often created weeks before the game is final. So that's an interesting point there as well. Sean Lewandowski says, not really a question, but EA Sports is simply showing their lack of confidence in this year's game by not releasing a demo, in my opinion. Again, as I just said, I don't see it that way, but it's certainly not an open and shut case. It could be. Bill W.J. Cheney says, it makes me worry, all these new gameplay features, and they're hiding it. He's talking about blocking, coverage, tackling, QB accuracy. Again, another person with that. Our friend Jeremy Wright, Master Germ, says, I feel like the people who buy Madden will buy it no matter what demo or not. I haven't bothered to download one since Madden 10. Speaking to the core, right, and with no other choices out there for consumers, if you want to play a new NFL football game this fall, the only option you have is Madden. Our good friend Night Attack 09, Adam Burnett, says, I'm disheartened at the fact they waited until now to tell us this. Had we heard this in June, I wouldn't have cared. Now I can't help but wonder if something else is hidden. So again, it's a good point too about the timing of it, right? And I think clearly one of the reasons we had the dust up today was the timing of this coupled with EA Access.
It was not even just the timing of it being within a few days or weeks. It's that the news of no demo came at like 9 this Pacific time, 9 or so. Then within about a half hour, EA was talking about how they were rolling EA Access out to everyone by the end of the day. It just wasn't a good look for them.
Yeah, and wasn't there some chatter at like the end of last week or in the middle of last week that the demo would probably come out this Tuesday? Or
that was me getting my wires crossed on some information digging about EA Access and the demo.
No pasta padre.
Yeah, I know. It was the EA Access related rather than demo.
So, and one last one here. This one from Sports Junkie 29 says, breaking their norm of having a demo is definitely a bad idea, especially with so many people on the fence about buying it. It's interesting, again, and there's no way that we'll ever know it unless, unless years from now, a then former, EA person comes out and says it. But it's very interesting. It would be interesting to know what the decision point was. Was it because demos don't help sell the game? Was it because the just effort to create a demo, they just decided that it wasn't worth those resources for that time, they wanted to focus on the game? Was it because they've only had 7 months since the last game? Was it because of EA Access? Was it because of all of these things together? Was it because one or none of these things? Very interesting. And again, I think the timing clearly caused the dust up. So TJ Larman, what's your takeaway from today's foofara hullabaloo about the no demo for Madden 15?
Probably that I have a purchasing problem where I need to get all the games the minute they come out, but normal people don't need to do that. They can wait, see if a game's good, and then pick it up. And don't do what I say, don't do what I do.
Brian Weed, what's your sort of final take on today's news about the Madden 15 demo?
Yeah, it's about more than just Madden. It's about kind of the future of where these publishers want to take people, and whether that is starting right now, and this is EA's grand plan to start with Madden for some particular reason to draw people into EA Access or not, within the next year or two, I think that's going to happen. And we're going to have to be dealing with this and they'll justify it the way they want to justify it, saying they're putting 100% of resources into the actual game, or that demos don't sell the games well anymore. They'll find ways to justify it, but ultimately that's the track they want to take people down, and that's why it created this kind of I wondered today, seeing the reaction and knowing EA had to anticipate that they at some point judged that, okay, we're gonna having a demo is not the right decision this year, and that outweighed this negativity that it created. It's just interesting to me to see that and say, well, they still felt that not having a demo was the better decision for them for whatever reason.
Now, I will admittedly say I'm not one of those people that thinks that EA is one of the worst companies in America. I don't think that their executives are sitting around a table trying to screw their customers out of money as evilly as possible. I could be and probably will be skewered for saying those kinds of things. Again, I'm not saying EA is also an organization who has no interest but the gamers and heart either. Obviously, they're a business, but it's clear, right, that we continue to be in a transition period in video games, not just in the new consoles, but with the digital age and with broadband internet becoming more prevalent. With subscription models sort of trying to get figured out, with even just different platforms to play games, like with the handhelds really kind of falling below what they used to be, and with tablets and with smart televisions and with all of the transition in video games and in entertainment, there's a lot of things that are going to be done. Some of them we're not going to like. A lot of them we're not going to like. Video games continues to be an expensive hobby. It does not appear as if it will be getting less expensive. It appears that it will be getting, if nothing, more expensive. I think at this point you can take nothing for granted, and understand that this is a business, and businesses make good decisions, businesses make poor decisions. We are the customers, and ultimately the customers can speak with their wallets, and at the end of the day, that is, I think, the only tool that we have to voice our pleasure or our displeasure. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out, with Madden and with the entire fall sports lineup. And speaking of that, this Friday we have our fall sports preview of the Press Row podcast, of which this will be a segment at the end. But you got myself and TJ Larriman and Kat Bailey and Sumit Sarkar and Owen Good doing a preview, not of features and functions, but of just what is happening around us and what to expect, what franchises have the most at stake, what are the most important, and sort of what this fall is going to bring to us, because it is going to be a wild ride. So look for that, and look for Brian and TJ and I probably doing this a little more often as the big news tends to come out a little fast and furious these days. So, Brian, thank you. TJ, thank you. And thank you to everybody for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you again real soon.